How did I meet your father? Oh, let me see. Mom found out about your father through word of mouth. The woman living in the attic knew him from somewhere and said that he was a good handyman. Your father's always been so good with his hands. He's like a plumber, car repairman, roofer, and electrician all wrapped into one. And, of course, he was procrastinating on everything from the very beginning, but he did such good work and was such a good friend to me and Mom. There aren't too many people who I can talk politics with who won't get up and walk in the other direction. And at the time, the Reagan administration was driving me up the wall. Yeah. So I would say, Mom was happy with the work your father did get done, and besides, she was already starting to have problems. Mental problems. She would get agitated at me for no reason at all and spend hours and hours alone in her room. She was the kind of woman who was always on the go, The woman never stopped moving in all the years I was going to school. Always on the go, always flying off to a conference in Amsterdam or Paris, or a sightseeing trip to Ethiopia or China. Always writing to people to whom I don't know, but she loved to cut out clippings from the newspaper and send them to people. She also frequented the Unitarian Church, and so it was funny when you started going. But anyways, that's why it was so odd to all of a sudden see her in the house for hours at a time. This was right after Dad had died. One morning, she woke me up in a panic, and I knew right away what had happened. We walked downstairs to find Dad, pants down and Playboy in hand, slouching on the couch. His head was almost resting on one shoulder. This was also right after she got laid off from her job at the university, and nobody thought to organize a going away party. After all those years of service, can you believe that? Anyways, Mom was diagnosed with clinical depression around that time and experimented with many medications before finding one that worked. Unfortunately, she was unhappy with it because it had sulfites, which made her gain weight. So she decided to get on another one. And it was this new one that was known to be connected to self-induced pain. But back to your father. Your father took her to the hospital a number of times, and I think that after a while, she came to trust him. Of course, little did she know that your father and I were, making love right under her nose. I highly doubt she would have been happy if she had known, especially considering that he was in some sort of other relationship at the time. And also considering that he hadn't even graduated college and I was just getting my PhD. But, of course, I couldn't hide the fact that I was pregnant, and I don't think that telling her helped anything. About a month after I told her, I found a note lying on the bathroom sink saying something along the lines of, "I just can't live anymore like this." Now, I knew right away what had happened, since this had happened 2 times before, and so I immediately called the police and told them to meet me by the river. When I got to the river, to the Main Street Bridge that we cross every time we go to the library, I saw a woman running over to a man, presumably her husband, and watched them leaning over the railing as she pointed at something below, something moving in the water. Of course, I knew that the thing they were pointing at must have been Mom, and so I tried not to scream at them, and instead turned and signaled to the policemen who were blocking off both sides of the bridge. I went right up to one of them and asked him to do something, and he said something along the lines of, "There's no need for frantic women in this world," and indicated that a search party had already been sent down the river and that a helicopter would be arriving shortly. I walked back to the railing of the bridge and looked, but didn't see anything in the water. And so I walked down the steps to the river path that we always walk on to visit Mom's memorial stone. I went down to the edge of the water and cried, thinking about how Mom would never get to see her first grandchild. If she hadn't been overjoyed with the way your brother turned out, I know she would have loved to see you. You two are so alike, you know. Your father and I